So I am going to read an excerpt from the book Shrinking the Integrity Gap by Jeff and Tara Matson. And those of you who have watched my videos before know that I have been reading this book. And so I want to start the video with an excerpt. And then I want to share a brief part of like my own brief testimony and how it relates to this excerpt. So let me, oh no, I lost my place. Where was it? Let me find it. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, here we go. And there are some words in this that I am going to like say fill in the blank or just kind of skip over because I believe you're not able to say them due to, YouTube policies. So use your imagination, okay? In the room of world changers from all over, executive leaders from Prison Fellowship shared how they moved from the prison system to new lives of leadership. Tara, I was struck by Sarah, close to 60, years lining her face. She grinned from ear to ear as she spoke of the woman she was privileged to walk with. She grinned from ear to ear as she spoke of the women she was privileged to walk within the prison system. As a young girl who was trapped in a life of trafficking and D word and crime, she knew only the piles of shame that suffocated her while living in and out of the prison system. Someone from the audience asked what she had not received in her home as a young child that may have contributed to years she spent in prison. The questioner was trying to uncover how kids caught in the Department of Human Services, the DHS system, might have a fighting chance for a different outcome. Sarah confidently answered, "If you don't matter to your parents, you feel like you don't matter." She went on to explain that it was the prison fellowship ladies who came back in week after week, who loved me like I mattered. She continued, because they saw me, met my basic human needs to be seen and loved. I began to heal and years later got to where I am today. Every human has the God-given need to matter to someone, whether we sit behind bars, the pulpit, or the CEO desk. And I just thought that was such an incredible passage, and it talked briefly about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how if someone doesn't have their basic needs met, it's hard for them to get to any other tier, coming to self-actualization and basically thriving outside of having their basic needs met. If their basic needs are not being met, you can kind of forget anything else. And so I loved this passage, and it brought me back to a place in my life where I was someone who, and those of you who have watched, my testimony videos, and I've shared pretty openly about where I was, right before I started, my leadership journey, where I started to really, cut my teeth and get true leadership development, and true people really started to pour in me and believe in me. I talk about how I was in a really dark place. And before even all of that, and I'm not even sure where it all started and where it all began. And when I think back on it, it feels like one day I woke up and I was just dealing with so much, like, I was just dealing with so much rejection. Like, at every turn in life, I had this fear of rejection, and I'm not sure where along the way it developed. I think I know where it developed, honestly, but I think, as time went on, when you have those unchecked fears, you push them down. And as you experience a trauma, you don't deal with that trauma. You power through the trauma. This is what I was doing. I was powering through the trauma. So I was pushing down that trauma that really broke me, fragmented me, honestly. And so I just kept living life and moving on to other situations and kept experiencing life, kept experiencing other scenarios of rejection until, it piles up so much that it's like a cup that runs over. And so, different moments of rejection, whether it be from a romantic partner, from a boss, from friendships, from or people that you thought were friends, from betrayals, from all kinds of situations and scenarios, I really developed such a paralyzing fear of rejection. And I'm sure that's how I developed an anxious attachment. And so I really, really, in those later years, as I started, when it was all starting to come to a real head, just it became so, I just moved in that fear. It was so consuming. I was just terrified to show up as myself. And I became very chameleon-esque. And so I wanted to transform into the person that whoever was in front of me, especially in a romantic partner, because if I transformed and became the perfect person, then they wouldn't leave me. But anybody who's done that, who has been the chameleon, who lacks self-identity, who lacks self-love, who has gone through that rejection, and it always comes crumbling down because it's not sustainable, because it's not sustainable. It's a house of cards. And so, of course, I find myself in a horrifically dark place. And, this is off of a stint of, moving away from home and not moving away from everything I knew, my whole support system, friends, family, everything I knew, to move away. And I did learn a lot about myself. Also was very, sporadic and chaotic and all kinds of things. I look back on it now and can see the benefits of doing that, but I didn't do it that in the right way. So that created a lot of chaos and drama. And also, I learned a lot of things about myself that were not good. Character flaws. A lot of my own personal character flaws came to the surface, because when you're surrounded by other people, you don't have to really focus on yourself. But when you're alone, all of that comes bubbling up to the surface. And then again, you don't have your support system. So you're trying to make friends, you're trying to make these connections. And so it's hard. It was hard. And it was like that exacerbated the fear of rejection, that because it seemed like I could not make real connections. And even people that I thought I was making real connections with ended up betraying me. And so it had all come to a head. And so then I moved back home and start to try to recover in some way. But, I really just go into a spiral. And so all that to say, I was exactly where she was talking about, not feeling as though I mattered to anyone. And I knew that I mattered to my parents, of course. My parents never were short of showing me love, but it wasn't. I needed a different kind of love. I knew my parents loved me, but it was different. Like it was different. And I had disappointed my parents so much. They would never say that they disowned me or anything, but I knew I had made atrocious decisions. And a lot of times they were having to, bail me out of situations and come to the rescue because I had gotten myself in some type of ridiculous situation. And so I know that they were fatigued and probably had some PTSD. And so just where I just felt so there. I was at my lowest of the lowest of the low. I couldn't get, if I could get lower than dirt, I would have gotten lower than dirt. And so I felt like there was no, I could, my basic needs were not being met. I felt like I did not matter to anyone. And my sister had started doing the work, her inner work, about a year or so, about maybe 2 years ahead of me. And so she was in a completely different place than I was. I mean, I was low. I was low. And she had gotten herself together. She had turned her life around. She had reestablished her relationship with Christ. And her life just looked completely different. And so I hadn't yet done that. I hadn't yet started to address the internal issues that I had. But I will say that when I moved back home, that we, of course, we're twins, and so we're so close. We're extremely close. We're extremely close to this day. Always have been. And I had been rejected by so many people, by literally, it felt like everybody, that I was very well expecting for her to reject me. And I was almost pushing her to reject me. I was doing things. I even was doing things to cause her to reject me because that's all I knew. That's all I knew was rejection. And so I would do things that were completely out of pocket, that it would give anybody reason to walk away, turn away, not, like, you know what, I love you, but I can't deal with you. You're just not in a good place. Let me know when you're ready to like change, because, her life was headed in a different direction, you know, completely different than mine. And she didn't. She didn't. Just like, and I'm getting emotional. Just like that woman said, where those ladies visited her week after week after week, showed up for her, met her, and she began to heal. That's exactly what it was. Every turn, every excuse. I gave my sister every reason to run. And she never, and even though we're sisters, she doesn't owe me any loyalty. And when we put people through, when we put people through, difficult situations, it's one thing to be there for people, but people don't owe us anything when we are actively putting them, dragging them through their own like traumatic situations, because I'm sure on some level it was traumatic for her dealing with me going through my own personal, you know, just hell. But she stayed, and she lifted me up. She dusted me off, and she loved me. She loved me. She healed me. Her love healed me whole, because I just needed one person. I just needed one person who wasn't going to walk away. And she never walked away. And I know there were times after I got better, after I got better and started my own journey to recovery and healing and started to do my own internal work. She told me, there were times she wanted to leave, because, she was like coming into motherhood, and so yeah, she was in a completely different place than me. And absolutely, she needed to protect herself and her child. But by the grace of God gave her, he told her to stay in there. And he graced her, he strengthened her to stay by my side, because he knew how much I needed her, how much I needed that. And he knew that my healing, my health was on the other side, was on the other side of her staying. And so knowing that I mattered kept me here, kept me fighting. And so I don't, I hate that I cried. Oh my gosh. Who wants to like cry on the internet? Like, I don't want to be that girl. Anyways, but what I'm trying to say is, whether it's happening in your personal life or whether it's happening in your professional life, as a leader, as a sister, as a brother, as a cousin, as a friend, as a mother, as a dad, and I'm not saying that you have to stick around for everybody, because you do have to protect your peace. But you know what? God will lead you and direct you to stick in there with the people you're supposed to. And because we will have assignments. Some people will be our assignments. And I'm grateful that my twin happened to be hers. And so that's just, a blessing. That's my blessing. But you know what? You might be somebody else's. And you might be somebody else's blessing. You might be the one person that sticks in it with them, who says, I believe in you. I know you can do this. You may not see it right now, but I see it. I see it. You're capable. And I'm going to hold you up. I'm going to prop you up. I'm going to ensure that we get you across that finish line. And, you know, we want to, we, we think that we think that there's, a finish line, a certain destination. The longer I'm in leadership, the longer that I do this, even the longer that I record these videos, I just realize that it's never done because we're always growing, we're always learning. And if we're not, then that is the end of the road. Is taking on, hey, I've made it. I think I'm done. That's the end of the road. But if you have a growth mindset, if you are someone who continues to actively grow every single day to be better than yesterday, even in little increments, you're never done. You're never done. And that is beautiful. That's beautiful because what a journey. What a journey that your life can be such an incredible blessing to someone else, that the decision you make today can be somebody's blessing tomorrow. I thank God every day that Whitney took those steps to change her life around because somebody had to do it. And she took the bold step to say, I don't want this life anymore. And that was scary. That was scary. I thought I was losing my best friend. We were partners in crime. I mean, really, partners in crime. And a part of me felt like, I was losing my best friend because I didn't want to give up that life yet. I didn't want to get out of the fast lane. I wanted to keep living my rock and roll lifestyle, just hell on wheels or high heels, whatever, cowboy boots. But because of her transformation, and I mean, and it was so quick, just when she chose Jesus, it was like immediately, it was like turning on, like when it's like being in a dark room and a flashlight like goes on and it's just that bright. It was like God just shone through every piece of her, every part of her. And so, like, I loved that for her, but also it made me sad for me. Like, I couldn't choose it for myself. But after I had, you know, rolled around in the dirt long enough, after had life had knocked me around enough, and I was begging to come home, Jesus was waiting. And he had the perfect person waiting to assist me. And so I thank God for that. And our relationship has never been better. We're both sober. We both have such a love for Christ. Like being being not only sisters, but being sisters in Christ, we have never laughed harder. Like you think our vacations look a lot different, but we still need a chaperone. I'll say that. We still manage to find ourselves in the craziest situations, but in like the most innocent and fun and most adventurous. Life has not stopped being fun and interesting. We have the most incredible time. We laugh so hard and we enjoy ourselves because you know what? This is no judgment, but I'm just telling you, I'm just telling you my testimony that the world wants you to believe that you got to have something in your cup. You got to have something between your lips. You got to have something in your system to loosen you up so then you can enjoy, so you can vibe. So then you can enjoy the atmosphere. My mom used to tell me that if you have to, he used to just think, she's like, if you gotta have a drink to have fun, are you really having fun? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's always gonna be my drink and my two step. Like, what are you talking about? But getting sober, she was absolutely right. My love for dancing, I let a good beat drop. Okay. That has not stopped my love for dancing. I will still dance and have a good time. But am I losing my mind? Absolutely not. Do I can still have a good time and have all my faculties? Praise the Lord. That is wonderful. You know, the world wants you to believe that you got to be, you know, pull up to the club with your ceiling missing to have a good time. Like the weekend is for you to pin your cat back blue, to be barely making it Monday morning, rush through the week so you can do it all over again. And I get it. That's not everybody's story. But I'm telling you, sober life is the best life. And I'm talking to folks who are Christians. Okay? I'm talking to Christian folks. If you're on here and you're not a Christian, I hope you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. I hope you're getting something out of it. But even, I've seen people who are not Christians and still enjoying a sober life. And I'm telling you, man, there is nothing like it. Just enjoying life for what it is, feeling all the raw feelings and knowing what it is to be able to process and just feel. You don't have to reach for anything. You don't have to be in outer space to truly vibe with life. Like you don't miss a thing because you really have to be present to be able to enjoy, because you're not present when you're on other things. You're not present. You have taken something to escape somewhere else to be able to then link with whatever vibe, but to be sober and present and to be able to then vibe within the atmosphere, it's truly incredible. But anyways, I don't even know how I got on that tangent. I was saying, you know, just my relationship with my sister, my family, the relationships around me, being able to be discerning about the people, places, things, what I really want in life. Because, we really gotta want more for ourselves. Like Do we not see what's going on in this world? Gone are the days of riding the fence. You have got to decide. The time is now. The time is now. The time is now. Because I'm not going to be making, I'm not here to make any prophecies about anything. All I know is that there are people attached to you. Because if my sister did not get her life right, I don't know where I would be. I wouldn't be sitting here today. This YouTube channel would not exist today if she did not step into her calling, step into her life with Christ. That's how real it is. And you're like, oh, well, you're twins. You guys are going to do the same thing. No, don't think about it like that because we're still individual people. And so we can all make our own choices. We need to think about it that clearly. There are people waiting for you. When I think about that, I always get a vision of like a line out the door. Anytime I see that, like anytime I see that, like I just see a line out the door of people waiting. And so there's a lot at stake. This isn't to fearmonger. This is just for us to grasp the seriousness of the times that we're living in and for us to be like, you know what? I decide one, that I'm going to choose Christ. Two, that I am going to choose to start to do the work so I can address what's really going on and heal. So when I heal, as I'm, because God is not going to wait until you are a perfect person, because He is going, as He's cleaning you as a vessel, as he's cleaning, He's preparing you. Okay, so He's not going to wait till you're nice and shiny before He starts sending you out. So as you heal, as you heal, He will then start to use you to impact the people around you. It could just be the people in your family. You might be someone who lives with people who maybe not, they're not believers. Maybe you're a first generation believer. Okay? Because, and you don't need to stand on the couch like Tom Cruise and, Bible beat, but we share, we testify, we prophesy, we speak to God, the Jesus's character, with our actions. So it can just be as simple as how the changes that, as we get in our word, as we study, as we start to show up differently, people start to see the differences and the changes in us. And they're like, something's up. Something's up. Because usually they wouldn't do that, or something. Maybe they're used to you popping off and you decide you're going to hold your tongue, or whatever the situation might be. But as people begin to see the changes in you, experiences the changes in you, that speaks to God's character. So when I'm talking about, putting down the things that are causing you to look, because I'm sorry, and I used to do it too. Don't worry, I'm not passing judgment. I'm just telling you what it looks like because I used to do it too. Nobody believes you when you're doing it, by the way. Okay? Nobody believes you. You can't be talking about Jesus with an alcoholic beverage in your hand. You can't be talking about Jesus with a joint or, the in your hand. You can't be talking about Jesus with the whatever you want in your hand. Can't be doing it. Okay, hanging out with the same crowd in the same places, at the club, at the lounge, at wherever you're at. Talking about Jesus, because you can have a heart for Christ. You can love him. Somebody said you can be a Jesus fan. You can be a fan of Jesus, but nobody truly believes that he is a part of your life, that you are actively pursuing him. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. And believe it's not about judgment, because remember, if you watch my other video, we talked about what does the Bible say? It's about the fruit that we produce. So if we are comparing it to the fruit, if we're putting it up against the Bible, the fruit, what kind of fruit does the good tree produce? What kind of fruit does the bad tree produce? So if we look at that verse and then we look at the actions and behaviors that we see, which one are you falling into? So that is just an observation. Those are not judgments or being judgmental. Those are just making, okay? So I know what it is to feel and experience being loved back to healing, being loved back to health. And there's nothing like it, because it only takes one person. It only takes one person. We are all valuable, no matter where you are in life. Even if you have done the most terrible things, you are valuable because you breathe air. And you are redeemable. Does not negate that you are going to have to pay the consequences of, earthly consequences. God doesn't say, oh, you're redeemed, so you don't pay consequences. No, he says you're redeemed, but you will pay your earthly consequence. Okay. But you're redeemed, and you're loved. Okay. Like a parent. Okay. And so I don't want to just keep, I think we got it. So my name is Tiffany, and on this channel, we are learning to lead ourselves well so we can serve others better. This is a faith-based channel, but I do talk about universal leadership concepts, amongst other things. So hopefully you are enjoying the videos. Please stay, watch more of them. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. Let me know where you're from, especially if you're joining for the first time. Yeah. And I hope you return again. We'll talk soon, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Oh, and if you are being impacted by the storm, stay safe, stay warm. Please, 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 please be safe out there, guys. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.